Money should never be the motivation to come to Canada. So you need to understand the culture. You need to understand the financial systems. You should not expect the first time you come here, we have the aspirations of buying our favorite cars, the Lambos. Even the people who are doing it for real, there's a lot of story behind them. You know, you see all those fancy cars, but there's so much hard work that you do not see. My name is NAVJOT. I came to Canada 3 years ago and now I'm sitting at the Wealthbusters podcast and I'm so excited to have this conversation with Cody and Nada. So if you are new to this country or if you are wanting to build more wealth, I think this podcast will be perfect because we are going to talk about some amazing things here.
You came to Canada in 2020 and you bought your first property. Now, do you think you will be equally successful if you came in 2022 when the property price went down? And you will be equally successful?
It's hard to compare. First of all, I did not come in 2022. I came in 2020. I can talk about 2020. When I came on 11th of March. So 12th of March, 2020 is when we landed. 16th of March is when the shutdown happened. We had a job when we came.
What was the job?
So I was a researcher, back in Hong Kong. So I was in Hong Kong for 4 years. Wow. I worked in research industry for about 10 years. Yeah. And I had a job with the same company that I worked for 8 years before I left and became an entrepreneur, a failed one. We'll probably talk about that, later. But I had that job. Simran, who's my wife, she's a software developer. She had interviews lined up and we were settled. We were like, we'll just come 7 days, 14 days max. We stayed in an Airbnb for 7 days. We already had a rented, accommodation, and we were like, everything will be good. Yeah. And then we landed. WHO announced while we were in the air still it's a
COVID
pandemic.
It's real.
It's real. And then we landed on 16th of March or 15th of March. My company called me and said that we have a hiring freeze. The rented accommodation that we had done, they said that they can't give it anymore because whatever, right? So so everything just started falling apart. So I won't say that it was easy. Yes, maybe real estate was cheaper, but we didn't know what the means would be to buy that real estate at that time because we didn't even know if we'll be alive, like the only thing that I remember, I was living in downtown. The only thing that I remember of downtown is not the hustle and bustle. The only thing that I can remember is the sound of ambulance.
Yeah.
For 1 month, that's the only thing that we heard. So I won't say that struggle is less or more than what we have in 2022 with the recession and everything, or the high prices. It's just independent of each other, and I think you can find success in either of those situations if you have the right mindset.
Yeah, and I love how you answer that question because some people would approach it thinking of like the financial aspect of qualifying in 2020 versus 2022, but you also brought in the other factors, which are remembering those ambulances going down the street, like the mental aspect of that and the social aspect of it. I think that's really cool. Now, why did you guys pick Canada? Like, was it for work? Like they had you guys come to Canada, or was it you guys were here, COVID lockdown, and you're like, let's stay here?
It's funny, right? So Canada is easy to immigrate, at least, back then it was, in 2-3 before COVID, basically. So it was easy to immigrate. I wanted to be closer to North America because that's where we always hear that, it's the land of opportunity, the dream, the American dream, right? So I was like, Canada is close to the US and it's a pretty massive population. All the big companies, are here. The company that I worked with has its headquarters in the US. So I was like, there'll be more opportunities there. So let's go to Canada because it's easier and then we can make the transition if we have to. Yeah. But it's funny because, when I came to Canada, I had a plan B. So we landed in Canada. We had a PR. So we landed in Canada and I had a job opportunity in Malaysia and in Dubai. Wow. So I was like, if it doesn't, if we don't like it, whatever, in a month.
Before we go any further, how's the job offer in Malaysia and Dubai compared to the job offer in Canada? I think a lot of people want to hear.
Way better.
Really?
It was
way better.
almost
in what way?
In terms of earnings, right?
Wow.
In money-wise, it was way better.
Can you share it? Because you don't take those jobs anymore.
So it was about $160,000.
USD?
USD.
In Malaysia,
which is a lot of money in Malaysia.
That's a lot. You can be a king there.
Yeah, Dubai would have been equivalent or slightly more and tax-free.
And tax-free, yeah.
Right. So here, my first job was $78,000.
So why?
The reason is permanency, right? So it's important because in Malaysia you cannot. It's very hard to get a PR. I don't think it's even possible to get a citizenship.
Yeah.
Same with Dubai, right?
It's very difficult.
It's very difficult. So it was permanency. I always knew that, I would be able to do well. And I always knew, because I had done, I've made the transition from a 9 to 5 to entrepreneurship once.
Yeah.
I knew that I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. And, then money is not, a yardstick. I wanted permanency so that, that's out of my way.
Yeah.
And then I can just build my business, and I'm earning more than, what those jobs were, right?
100%.
So we're going to dive deeper into that. But a lot of people say this to me, is like, Cody, Canada is a place for family, not a place for fun, not a place for earning money, but a place for family.
Yeah.
Do you agree to that?
No, it's just every place can be what you want it to be.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of people say that, why can't you do better in India? Like, why did you leave India? You could have done better. And I
Which
agree.
part of India were you guys from?
I was in Delhi, New Delhi. So I was like, yeah, I could have, right? But that was not what I chose.
Yeah.
It could be anything, right?
Yeah.
But I know I could have done better or well in India. I don't know if I would have done better, because I don't have that, comparison. I can't rerun that in my
Yeah.
mind because I've not done it. But yeah, so every place, I don't think, if you want to be a family guy, you can be a family guy in Dubai, wherever, right? If you want to build a business, you can do that wherever. There would be red tape. In some places, they are less. Canada, I really believe, is not that difficult
Yeah.
to start a business. To open a business in India, it took me 3 months to open a business.
Really?
Open a court.
So this was in 2019.
Really?
Yeah, it took me like 3 months to get everything, in
Wow.
order. Hong Kong was 1 day. Canada was, similar. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, business is a lot more complicated, right? So it's just about, what you want it to be, your life.
Is there a reason that it takes 3 months? Like,
It's just, paperwork process. Now it's a lot easier.
Yeah.
I'm talking about 2019, and from 2019 to now, it's much more digitized. So I'm pretty sure it's a lot easier now. But at that time, it took me a long time.
wow. That's incredible.
Yeah.
I thought you have a question for Nav, right? About
No, man, I blanked out because that was like a really cool. I never knew that it took 3 months. That's really crazy.
Yeah.
Good for you for even following through with that. That's honestly incredible, man.
So I started my business in Hong Kong, right?
Yeah.
So it was 1 day.
Hong Kong's a wonderland, man.
It is. I
If
love
you
it.
make trading profits and all that.
Oh, yeah.
My friends are laughing. We make the same amount, and he's like, Cody, how much you pay in tax?
Yeah.
You want to come to Hong Kong?
We
Like,
retain less.
Yeah, we retain a lot less.
Yeah.
Right? But again, there's different pros and cons.
Yeah.
right?
No, I
different
know.
lifestyle.
Yeah. I loved my time in Hong Kong. Yeah.
I thought you have a question, Nada, for Nav before I came on, right? You were talking about
Yes.
a lot of people think. You want me to finish it for you? You want to be
I
a
mean,
co-host?
clearly you want to finish it.
But
so
you want
I
to be a co-host? Come on, be a co-host.
I'm gonna smack this guy. I swear to God, I am literally gonna go whoop ass.
Maybe that can go in the bloopers, right?
It will definitely go in the bloopers.
that could go bad.
No animal abuse. No, I'm just kidding.
I don't know who's the animal here, but
Oh, you know. No, but one thing that I'm really curious to ask you on is like a lot of the sentiments that I've come across from whether it's like family or family friends back home is, they have this idea that you come to Canada and there's a lot of success and a lot of opportunity, but as much opportunity as there are limitations to that. Like people expect when you come to Canada, you're brand new, like you came with your PR. So thankfully you're like on a good level, but people expect they come from back home, they'll come to Canada, they'll get a house and qualify, but the reality I feel like is really not like that. So can you talk a little bit about the expectations that like, if you were to talk to someone who's considering this, like what kind of things would you kind of mention to keep in mind for them?
I mean, right now, if you have a good life wherever you are coming, where we live, right? So for example, I'm from India. If you have a good life in India, if you're earning well, if you have, settled, because it's much easier life-wise because you have helpers and, it's cheap labor and, all that, right? So if money is the reason why you want to come to Canada, I don't think that's the right motivation, especially right now. It's expensive, right? I'm not saying it's not expensive in India, but you still have a life there. You have already lived there for 20, 30 years and you have connections, you have network, you hardly know 10 people in Canada and that too not in your field. So it'll be a lot difficult to get jobs, to get into business. Culturally, it's very different. So I never would ask anyone, or if someone asks me, money should never be the motivation to come to Canada.
100%.
And especially, in any place when you come, like I said, culturally it's very different. So you need to understand the culture. You need to understand the financial system. When I came here, we used to talk about annual reports, financial reports. Here it's called fiscal reports.
Yeah.
Like the language is different. The lingo is different, even in finance. The way taxes are done is different. So you need to allow yourself, some time.
Yes.
To understand these things. You should not expect, that the first time you come here, we have the aspirations of buying, our favorite cars, the Lambos, we see that on the internet, and, and some of it is a little bit, for the show, and we need to segregate what's for show and what's real. But even the people who are doing it for real, there's a lot of story behind them. You see all those fancy cars, but there's so much hard work that you do not see.
Imagine what's that? The super fan of Raptor.
Yeah,
Yes.
NAVJOT.
Nav, right?
Yeah.
He has a story to share.
Yeah.
Do you know him? Like roughly his story?
I mean, I was at his, opening of his, premiere that he did on his story. So he has a fascinating story, right?
Yeah.
I'm really inspired by him, and the way he connects everyone with basketball, like a sport that no one plays in India, right? So but he's able to unite so many people. He has, so many businesses that he's doing so well, and there were so many struggles before he is in a position now to buy the Rolls Royce, right? So. And have that fancy house on Mississauga Road. So there's so much struggle that people don't see. And people feel that, it's easy. It's not. When you do it, you guys are entrepreneurs, right? You know that it's one of the toughest jobs on the planet.
Most fun though.
But it's fun.
It's so much fun.
That's why we do it, right? So, but
you have to you have to have certain skills, and it just sometimes you go into crazy things.
Yeah.
You just never give up. Right?
You got to love the stress of the challenge.
There's be one day be like, like take off, but you never know when that's gonna come.
Yeah,
absolutely.
When it come, they have a different problem.
So it's a funny thing, right? So everything went up for us after 6 or 7 months of being in Canada.
Really?
Almost. 7
That's
months.
fast, eh? 6 to 7 months.
And that was because of YouTube, right? So we were doing YouTube since 2019 before coming to Canada.
Before coming to Canada. Were you guys speaking English or?
No. We were doing, mix of English and Hindi. That's how it works in India. Okay. So it's mix of English and Hindi. And we were more comfortable doing that. So, we were doing that. And 52 videos. We had about 2,000 subscribers in 52 videos.
Crazy.
So that's a lot of videos,
for 2,000.
For 2,000 subscribers, right? So, and the highest video had 10,000, and we thought that was viral. So I was like, we got viral on one video, right? 10,000 views. And the 53rd video was about how we left our high-paying jobs in Hong Kong and came to Canada. And that video overnight went to about 500,000 views. And that video, just propelled us into a different league on YouTube. We had about 50,000 followers, like in 10 days. So people see that. A lot of people know us from that video, but they don't, they don't understand the 52 videos that, that was just, below the iceberg, right?
That's what it is.
So I think that's the difference. So to answer your question, come back to your question, that's the difference, right? People see when people are successful and they
iceberg.
only
see the iceberg, top of the iceberg,
but they don't see all the hard work that went into. We sustained ourselves for 52 videos without any success, without any money,
causing all the trouble of editing
the
and
time,
all that good stuff.
I was editing videos for 2 years, of my YouTube journey. So
since you shared that, I'm gonna share my story. I start YouTube video right in the middle of COVID. I just bought a camera. Actually, my wife now gave me a camera. It's just a $600 one. I filmed a video. She edited it, right? At first, I have someone else edit it because I teach her about stock option, and then she edited it. And 6 video in, she's like, "This is way too much work. Each video is like 20-hour editing." Cody, the way you want it is too meticulous, right? And then first 6 video didn't go anywhere, and then that 7th video, just like start. At first, it was like another slow one, and then it started getting picked up by YouTube, and started 100K, 200K, 300K. And that's brought in I only have 8 video by that point, but I have 13,000 subscribers.
Oh wow!
Right, but people don't see it afterwards. And then, regretfully, I stopped because at that time I didn't know a system. I didn't hire anyone, so I just stopped. I focused on, other stuff. And last year, about August, I came back and I have a full team, podcast team, YouTube team, pay ads team, doing all this stuff regularly. And I make probably video at least once every 2 weeks, shorts every day. My YouTube channel only grow about 5,000 subscribers. So there's always a timing thing.
Yeah, it is.
And all of my friends who start the same time did not stop at more than 1 million.
But Cody, honestly, you can get to that 1 million by end of
Yeah.
2024.
Just keep pushing it.
Because we are just keeping we keep pushing it, right?
Yeah.
So I think that consistency plays a massive role.
Always.
That a lot of people come to me, and I'm sure you would give the same advice to anyone.
Go viral on YouTube.
Yeah. So how do you go viral, or how do you make it on YouTube? And I'm like, two things. Value, like
Yeah.
value, and in two ways, either information or entertainment,
yeah.
right? So
Or
that
both.
those are or both.
Valuetainment, right?
And consistency. That's it.
Yeah.
You need to do consistent value, entertainment,
Yeah.
information for extended period of time. It's not about, we say that in real estate, right? It's not about timing. It's about time in the market.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the same thing for YouTube.
100%.
For relationships, right? So relationships, business, brands,
Yeah.
all these things take time to build. There's no magic.
There's no secret formula.
You can't throw money at it.
No,
You can have all the fancy equipment and still
Yep.
not go viral.
100%.
Yeah.
That's actually one of the biggest things. I'm going to show my business again. So I have a social media company.
Okay.
And
Did you?
I always I'm going to show it again. I'm sorry. But I always tell people, like, we have a 3-month minimum. And they're like, why? Like, you just want to take my money for 3 months. I'm like, no, because I know if I do this for 1 month for you, you're going to get no results.
Right.
Because that is not how it works. You have to follow a consistent rhythm, because if I could do this in 1 month, I would be giving out 1 month packages left, right, and center.
Right.
But you do need that time and consistency, English, to gain a following. Like, unfortunately, there's like the rare moments where people will have like that one video go viral on their first post, but that's an anomaly.
Yeah.
You got to do it for months. You got to have the 52 videos, and then
True.
maybe the 53rd is the one that's going to blow up.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't know that, and it's crazy to me sometimes. But yeah, enough shilling.
Yeah. Selfless plug.
Always.
So Nav, when you get all these like consistency, keep pushing it forward, did you learn it from how you go from 9 to 5 to full-time entrepreneur? You have one success, one failure story. All these lessons, did you learn it from those previous experience?
Absolutely.
Can you share a bit more?
It's another iceberg then,
Yeah.
right? So we talked about YouTube, right? This is another iceberg.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
in the last 3.5 years, a lot of people, we just did the event, and everyone said, oh, Navjot, we are so proud of you that you have achieved so much in 3.5 years. We came around. So it's not about what I achieved and what I did right in those 3.5
Yeah.
years. It's about the mistakes that I made
100%.
in the last 8 years. One of the mistakes was, I started a business, and again, I'll come back to, how culturally
India
you need to.
or in Hong Kong?
We started in Hong Kong.
Hong Kong, okay.
And that was, we were making mobile apps so it later became mobile apps for shopping malls, but we started all over the place when we
Nice.
first started doing the mobile app business. And we were losing so much money, easily 5 figures, every single month in that business.
Who's
because it was
funding you guys on that?
no one, right? So I had a good job there. So I was the one who was
Dumping
funding.
the left
so
hand, right hand.
we had some
You had a
competitions, and
Yeah.
plus in the startup world, when you're raising capital and doing there's some competitions, and then they just hype you. But in reality, there was no business there, and I know that now. I can say that confidently now. But I was very excited back then, and that's where I was putting money into it. And those were the failures that led to me. One thing that I understood from that failure was that you don't have to be complicated, because that app business was complicated.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm making money off mortgages, content, like media companies,
Yeah.
like all these education, all these things are simple. And I wanted to be different, and I wanted to, grow to $1 billion business. No, I just realized that we dream too big, and that's not wrong. But it's okay to be simple and still be able to make money. And that's the biggest lesson that I had. So all those failures actually taught me everything that I'm doing right now.
100%. And I think one of the biggest lessons there is like, and this is something that I've recently learned, so I love that you brought that up. It's, who are we doing this for?
Yeah.
Are you doing the complicated idea to help people, or are you doing it to help yourself? Are you doing it to kind of show yourself you can do it? Because once you realize the simple way is the best, that's when you realize you're trying to fill a need for other people to benefit from. Because I've been tethered to projects where it's so convoluted and tedious and complicated, and it felt like I was always pushed against a current. And then I realized I'm doing this for my ego, to show that I can do it. So once you shift to like, I'm filling a simple need that people require,
agree, yeah.
then it feels natural. I love that. Sorry, you have a question.
No, I don't have a question. I'm listening to you.
Oh, okay. Talk a little bit about your successes. I'd love to learn maybe from that. Because obviously, you know, when you look at the graph of success, it's not always just a steep incline. You have your dips here and there. Were you kind of having those along the way? Like, what are some things that you realized, like, I need to shift my strategy because I'm going down, but if I tweak it, I can start going up?
Hey, Wealthbusters, I just want to put on a side note, I do not run any ads on this channel. So if you enjoyed the video up until this part, make sure you like, subscribe, and share with a few friends that can benefit from this. And let's get right back into the episode.
I mean, I'll talk about, I've been a researcher all my life, right? So I'm good with market research.
You were behind the scene. Now you're in front of the scene.
So I was behind. I was not necessarily behind the scene. I was more B2B.
Yeah.
So, you know, I was doing research for companies like PepsiCo, Walmart, you know, British
Consumer
American
products.
Tobacco. So it's
Yeah.
consumer products. And I was doing research for them. I was still, you know, in front because I was not doing the data crunching, but I was the one who was presenting
Yeah.
it, right? So it was more of a consulting role that I had. So, you know, like camera and everything, you know, audience, that's comes
Nice.
naturally to me. But I was a researcher. So I felt that I want to be the CEO of the company that I was working with, right? So because it's the largest market research company, I wanted to be the youngest director. I don't know why. I actually know
You have
why.
drive.
So on my
You have
second
drive.
on my second day of joining that company, I was at an annual gala. So they were doing an annual gala and they were doing prize distribution. You know, they were holding out awards, right? So on that award ceremony, there was a person who was named the youngest director, and he was 32, right? So I was 23 back then. So he was 32, and he was like, he's the youngest director in the company. You know, he was promoted to that. And I was like, I'll be a director when before 30. Right. And obviously, you know, people said stupid. I'm too ambitious or whatever, right? Obviously, they were not, you know, on my face.
Yeah.
I went to Hong Kong. I became a director when I was 29. So I did become the youngest director, but I forgot to tell my wife that. So I always had that ambition since 23. I was working towards that.
Yeah.
But I forgot to tell, you know, Simran that, I became a director.
You forgot?
I
Just like-
forgot.
Oh my
I literally forgot. In 1 month later, I got my salary, which was obviously higher. And that's when you know what? I became a director. And that's when I realized that I was using my skill towards something that I was not passionate about.
Yeah.
Right. So, and that was, you know, it was not really, you would always have ups and downs in business, right? But in my head, it was more of a mindset up and down. I was like, shit, I always wanted to do that. I was actually running towards an empty target because it did not give me any fulfillment.
Yeah.
And when I reached there, I didn't even remember it, right? And that's where I thought that, you know, okay, let me just, you know, put my research skills into business.
Yeah.
And that's where we did the first business. Obviously, it failed. We moved back to India because we were not able to sustain that.
So you went to Hong Kong because of that business?
No. We went to Hong Kong. I was there for 4 years. I did my job for 4 years, almost 3.5 years. Then we left my job for the business and we moved to India.
Yeah.
And the reason why we moved to India, and that was a down, and that was an understanding, was that we were doing an app business, which was a consumer-facing business in a country where we didn't even understand Cantonese, right?
Yeah.
So it was not very culturally, it was not a cultural fit.
How do you
right?
pitch?
So we were able to pitch in English, you know, that was there, but you know, it's a small, it's 7 million population, you know, it was not a fit. So we were like, you know, we can actually move the same model, tweak it a little and come to India. So that was a down that we had because we were negative, a lot negative. And then we came to India, then we achieved some level of success there, you know, when we were in India, and then we came to Canada. So I've changed my position so much in the last 6 years. This is, I would say, the most stability that I've had in the last 10 years, these 3 years in Canada. And all those ups and downs just taught me, you know, one thing or the other. But the important thing is, if you look back, did the graph go up? And I would say yes. Both in mindset, both
Not in a
you
straight
know,
line, but it's kind of like this.
and that's okay. You know, you need to keep moving on. There's no failure, right? So it's a cliche line that, you know, there are no failures. There's success and
Fall
learnings,
forward.
right? So
Yeah.
you just learn from your failures, right? So yes, I have had failures, but I don't look at those as, I would probably look at those as failures when I was failing. But I would, in hindsight, you know, they made me learn so much that whatever I am today is because of those downtimes.
Can
100%.
I really want to ask, like, a lot of time we have the executor or the business owner come on the podcast. We never ask, how's their wife feeling? I never asked Claudette, my wife, how does she feel when I go through all this? She should have kept quiet. So how does Simran feel through all this instability throughout the years, seeing you up and down? How do you think she lived with it?
So she is always with me in the trenches, literally, because we have always done business together.
Oh, together. Okay.
So the failures were together. The successes are together. It's only the last couple of years when I did my mortgage business that did really well, when she was doing her own thing. And I do admit that she was alone at that time, because I was spending like 20 hours a day on building that, because I did not have anything to fall back upon. I had to make it happen. So, this was the first time when I said, I doubled down, and she understood, and she's very supportive. For the first time, we were doing two different things, and I was way busier than, she was. And she supported me. And now, that has gotten to a point where she's able to leave her job and join me again in building my systems. She's in IT, so she builds my systems. We are building a media company now. So, that media company will be handled by Simran. We are getting an office. So I do know that when couples are working apart, I think it's very easy for people like you and me who are very driven to forget.
What about the other half? What do we work so hard for?
I'll tell you an example, right? So I'll give you an example which was an eye-opener for me. So last year, when I was so busy, this was last year, and I was like, we got into an argument where she was doing all the housework and she was doing a job as well, and she was making way more, she was making good money, right? So and so all that was there, and I was
like, don't talk to me, I'm busy.
Yeah, so so I was doing 20 hours a day, in my job, and I was like, so she was like, I'm doing all the housework, and I'm like, it's not like I am not doing anything, right? I'm not sitting on the
so busy too.
But she said something that actually sticks with me even now. She said that you are doing something that you choose. I'm having to do something that I don't choose. I don't like the housework, right? So like, you are doing what you have chosen. I'm having to do things that I have chosen, but I also have to do the stuff that I don't like doing, right? And that's something that hit me, that, you have to strike that balance in your relationship.
100%.
Yeah.
Shout out to Simran. Let's go.
Have you guys find a solution for that now that, do you guys still do your own housework, or you guys hire out? How does that work?
So we do, we have outsourced a lot of the things. So we do have a helper that comes, every so
2 weeks.
it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Every 2
I have
weeks,
a dog
it makes
walker,
sense.
I have a helper.
It makes sense, right? So I think I was, because I was so much building into that business, I forgot that I can have a team, right? So, and now I have a team for everything, right? So my mortgages, I'm sitting here, mortgages are still happening. So it's not like, I have a team of 5 people across the country. I have underwriters who are doing, all the paperwork, now everything is, and I have more time
control.
So after this, it's a Friday, right? So after this, we are just going to have lunch in our favorite spot, by the lake. It's in Etobicoke, Port Credit. So we're just going to pack momos from Momo House. It's a small place there, and we're just going to go and have lunch. So now we have more time. I'm taking an entire week off. And the next weekend we are going to Casa Loma. We have not done all the downtown stuff. We only remember the ambulances, right? So we have not done the.
You have to experience it.
Casa Loma is very, very beautiful.
Yeah. So I think once you get into a point where you are okay in business, it's very important to realize that you need to build a team.
Yes.
And that's not just to make more money, but to also have a life.
Have a life and not break.
Yeah, not break.
Because if you keep doing it that, I think something will break, right?
Every time I've
had will break, or your marriage will break.
Absolutely. And every time we have taken a break, to Cuba or whatever, it's because I burnt out.
Yeah.
And I burn out, and then I'm like, no, I burnt out, and so that's when we take a break, right?
Yeah.
I don't think that's healthy.
That's
100%. And you lose your passion for the stuff that you love doing.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's like, once you're self-reliant, like this was something that I learned recently. It's like, how can I be a leader in a business if I don't have anyone to lead? It's like, you need to have people there to support you, and then it just becomes self-sustainable. Like, you hire on the people you trust, and then they kind of crush it for you. But that's a very big lesson that a lot of people cling onto. Like, the amount of people that I know who've been like working as a business owner and have no team and just keep doing it themselves, and they're getting burnt out. It's a cycle. It's insane.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. I used to do the same. Like, I feel like we're very similar stage. I have different teams doing a lot of stuff, and I realized, I need more people taking strategy calls, more coaches, all that stuff. And for the last year, I still traveled 12 times. 12 times.
Wow.
Asia, Portugal coming up for Christmas. We never been there, right? Not Spain, but Miami. Anything you can think about, 12 times. But then when I look back, I'm like, why did I travel those? I just give myself a legitimate reason to take a break because we're pushing so hard.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's really, maybe, that's the lifestyle I try to build, but might not be the most optimal way because every time I go on there, I spend the first 1 to 2 days just breathe.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree.
Right? So it's great to see that you're at the stage where you outsource it. Hey, not to say anyone who's hiring, first 3 to 6 months is more painful.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not going to be you hire someone, go right away, unless you pay multiple 6-figure, and you still have some trouble of culture and all that. But first 3 to 6 months, you're going to be more.
No one can build the business for you, right? So they'll not have the same passion. They'll not have So you have to have that passion going, and if they don't do it, you still have to do it, right? So
Except my team. Shout out to you guys. No, but I love that. And that's the thing. I think that's my biggest motivator too for being an entrepreneur. It's I want to be able to take those trips without having to justify it. Being like, oh, I need to do it because it's Christmas, or, having a holiday for it to fall on. It's like, you know what? I want to take a step back because I'm recognizing that I'm getting maybe a little bit burnt out, and I just want to go and hang out in Miami for a bit. I think that's like the biggest goal.
I think I generally do my goal setting in December, right? So for my next year. Now it's not a resolution, right? So I have really broken down my goals
Specific.
into like 22
Actionable.
different actions, right? So I gave myself a target that I need to complete 3 of these before I go on the holiday in December. So now 2024 is, so and I did that, and now I can breathe, right? So even if I'm not working the next week or taking it a little bit slow, I'm okay because I completed 3 goals that I set out for 2024,
smart.
In December, and they were small goals, right?
Reason.
Exactly, right? So I think that's important, and that's more true for people who are very driven.
You gotta know when to break and stop. I think that's a problem for us.
Yeah.
For people, there's different people, right? People that they need to be motivated, but we're way too motivated. We need to get demotivated.
That's
Tony Robbins teach people how to get demotivated.
Oh my God.
Just cool down.
Imagine
chill
having a
out.
coaching program for that.
Yeah, just like
Seriously.
guys, that we're gonna look at all aspects of life, the wheel of happiness. It's not all just about business. Okay?
Yeah.
Oh, hey, I just thought of a new business idea. Let's do it.
Demotivate.
Demotivating coaching program.
Only a 7-figure business out there.
That's amazing. But no, I like the way that you do that because instead of it being like, I'm going to finish 1,000 things, like when you set specific goals like that, there's an end in sight.
Right.
A lot of people tend to be like, when I finish this hump, and then that hump generates a new task and then a new task. And then suddenly it's like half the year you haven't taken time off. You're stressing out. Your hair is graying and you're just like, what's happening? And you've never even considered that you finished all the stuff that you said you were going to do before you take a break. So I like the fact that you have like 3 goals. If they're done, I can then take off and just enjoy myself. Very specific.
There was this quote that I read somewhere. I don't know. So I read Psychology of Money multiple times. Like every 2 years I pick it up. So I'm just
that's
finishing
the book you read.
Because it grounds me. It makes me understand that I don't.
What's a highlight of that book that
So
you
I'll
keep
tell
going
you,
back
right?
to?
There are 2 things, right? So the first one is that you stress about things that you're not doing, but you know that you have to do. So for example, setting goals but not achieving those or not even beginning to achieve those, you would stress about that. But when you're doing those things and you just don't know the outcome, right, then you have anxiety. And that's so when we go on breaks, we want to de-stress, and the reason why we do that, because we have already set things in motion. We just don't know the outcome, and that's just anxiety, and that's a much easier thing to handle, at least for me, than stressing about things that I should have done but I'm not doing. Right? So that's one thing. The other thing is that I don't remember the exact timeline, but there's a story in that book where the author Housel, I don't remember the first name, but yeah.
The book name is called Psychology of Money.
Psychology of Money, right? So there's one thing that there's a chapter number 7, which is on freedom. I remember the chapter.
Freedom.
Freedom.
What
Freedom.
page?
middle of the book somewhere, right? So freedom, right? So he says that there was a guy in 1990s or something. So he used to earn $1,800 a month, right, at that time, and all the expenses, everything, all his obligations was $1,000 a month. And he used to save $800 a month. And in about 2.5, 3 years, he was able to save $18,000 a month. So this guy was getting interviewed, on one of the channels. And he was like, the interviewer said that when is the first time that you felt free? That financial freedom that we all talk about, right? He gave this example. But then this guy, and he said that, I put that $18,000. It was in my account. I did not invest that, and I then quit my job and went into music. So that was the most free I felt.
Yeah.
So then the interviewer says, "What about the time when you sold a music label for $1.4 billion? Did you not, feel free then?" And the interview said that that was just more money.
Yeah.
But freedom was when I had that $18,000 and I could actually quit the thing that I did not love and go to something that I really loved. And that's what got me more money of 1.4. But the first time was when I had $18,000 in my account. And that's grounding to me.
That's
right?
an amazing perspective.
So, and this is something that I never paid attention to. That's why I said, every 2 years I come back to this book because it grounds me. And, I would highly recommend everyone to read it at least once a year. Yeah.
I have a similar moment. I don't know about you, but when the first time I have from the business, 100K sitting in the bank, and I don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
That's when I'm like, so I don't have to do anything for the next 6 months. I'm still okay.
Yeah.
Just for that business, one business, right? I'm like, that's very freedom. That's very liberating. Not that we didn't make anything, but just sitting there doing nothing. That was like the happiest moment. And then we keep hitting record months and all that. But now just another zero, another money and all. It doesn't give you the same feeling. But
absolutely.
The richest I ever felt, the most freedom I ever felt was that moment. Yeah. And I created more problem for myself.
Absolutely. When I built a team, so I was doing, 10, 20 hours a day of mortgages. And then I built a team. And suddenly, we went on a 1 month trip, across Canada. So we were just traveling. And I was like, I'm not working 10 hours a week now. So I was doing, 10 hours, more than 10 hours a day. Right now, I'm not working. But then we created more things, right? So we were like, let's do the media company. Let's do the education company. Let's do this.
We always find ways to make ourselves busy.
Absolutely, right. And that's fun.
Yeah.
I think it's fun, right? I'm 36. I don't know about you guys. I'm 36, but I still feel that I have good 20, 30 years in me of, my best is still in the future, right? So
you gotta love the journey. That's the thing. I find that when I was working a 9 to 5, I could not wait until retirement. That was the end goal. That was literally the thought in my mind. But it's like, now I'm waking up every day and I'm excited for what's to come in that day. It's more of like being in the present. And I think that to me is like, I wake up free every day.
There's a book that I read. It hardly sold like 600 copies or something.
You wrote it?
No.
Oh.
I read that
okay.
book. It was from my communications professor back in college. And it said, love your Mondays and retire young. I did not understand that line, back then because I was still, in my B school, right? So now I understand that, right? So love your Mondays and retire young. That's liberating, right? Yeah. So if you love your Mondays, you wake up, like you said, it's pretty good.
Yeah, I love Mondays now. It's actually weird. I
won't say I love Mondays, but yeah.
I don't know, man.
I love choosing not to work on Monday if I have to, right? I love the fact that I can choose not to work on a Monday, so...
To be fair, I wake up at like 10:30 on a Monday, so maybe that's why I love it.
Is that why you've never been on a meeting then? Is that why you're late for the meeting? Okay.
Stop setting the meeting at 8. I'm just kidding. But no, I find that that's like the biggest thing for me is I'm a huge proponent of waking up really early. Like I'll wake up at like 8, which I know is not early to a lot of people, but to me it is.
I wake up at 7. 8.
Okay, you win.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying like there's a 5 a.m. like routine, whatever.
Yeah.
But to the extent, right? Like I think if you just wake up and start doing the things that really matter and push yourself or the business forward, it doesn't matter when you wake up. My brother, that's an owl. Like he works at night and he's the most productive. I have team from all over the world. So I just say, work whatever you want. This is your results that you need to hit. Yeah. Go for it. Go nuts.
Makes sense.
Right? And I don't set people to, you gotta come in 9 to 5, right?
Yeah.
So that just, I don't think it's the right metrics to track people.
100%.
I agree.
And that was like my biggest thing is when I started working for myself, I was like, I'm going to do the thing that felt so rebellious when I was working in a 9 to 5. And it was Mondays waking up at 10:30. And I do that every week. And
It's
my
funny.
goodness.
I wanted to take an off on Wednesday because it's middle of the week.
Yes.
Right. So now I take offs on Wednesday.
You have to. You got to do
weekend.
that.
Yeah.
You got to.
Yeah.
That ROI is your happiness. Honestly,
Absolutely.
it
I
changes
agree.
the whole layout of the week, and it's priceless. Priceless.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you really want to share with our audience that you think you know? You already share a lot of value, but anything that you think you know that we don't and you really want to share?
Look, so a lot of people, like if an immigrant is watching, and a lot of us are immigrants, right?
I was an immigrant. I came out when I was 18.
Right. So, so if an immigrant is watching this, I would highly recommend that, I think a big reason why I have been able to do what I've, been able to do in the last 3-4 years is because I always had coaches. I always have mentors. Some of them are official, some of them I paid money, some of them are family, but I've always looked up to other people and listened. I think it's one thing to, you run an education business, I run an education business. It's one thing to have a student who listens to you, but does, their own thing. Yeah. It's one thing who listens to you, who actually listens and implements. I think it's very important to completely, if you trust someone, completely give into them because they have already done what you're, what the path that you are walking, and just trust them for that. And just, I think you will save years of mistakes, and that's worth more than any money that you spent or the time that you spent to get that coach, right? So I think that's something that we didn't talk about much, but that's something that I'm very passionate about, having coaches in life.
Yeah, that's a very key point. And you hit it in a different way. So again, trust and verify. But once you trust and verify, just go all in.
Yeah.
Because we have seen a lot. You have seen a lot. We have seen the failure and the success, and there's a probability game. Why don't we just avoid all those mistakes and go straight to the success? And sometimes when you have doubt, you're not coachable.
Yeah.
Right.
I'll give, related to this, I know we are running out of time, but, one thing that I was talking to someone else yesterday, and this guy is a mortgage client of mine, and he was like, Navjot, I'm thinking of starting a franchisee. I'm thinking of
Subway.
No, so he was thinking of doing like a coffee vending machine kind of a thing, right? And he said that I have two paths. One is that I give 40% of the business to someone who has already done it, and we just go under their umbrella and buy their franchisee. And the other path is that, I do it on my own and keep the 40%. And I'm like, have you ever done a vending machine? And he's like, no. And I'm like, then it's a no-brainer to go this path. Just recoup the money that you invest, which is like $10,000. It's just, nothing, right?
Yeah.
For entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And even if you don't recoup, 100% of your investment, you learn all the mistakes cheaply.
Yeah.
And then implement that and then become the franchisee owner, right? So, or, build your own franchisee business, right? So I think that one thing is worth, years of mistakes.
Yeah.
Correct.
And a lot of money. And then 100%. and you lose motivation, right? So if you do this and then you get stuck at problems. And so I think that coaching, and in every aspect is so important.
100%.
So critical.
And it falls into the idea that like, if you're in a room and you're the person who knows the most, you will not learn. You have to find a different room.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I'm in so many rooms where I'm the dumbest, one, like really.
It's the only way to learn, man, honestly. Like you have to put yourself in the uncomfortable situation.
And I love that, right? I love that.
You got to be comfortable being uncomfortable. It's the only way to grow.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, thanks for coming on, Nav. We're going to have you back maybe in a few
appreciate it.
months.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, great value. I think you're the first young, I wouldn't say youngest, but the freshest immigrant on our podcast.
Oh, wow.
Freshest immigrant.
You made him sound like produce.
I mean, I've been immigrant for like 14 years, so there's a 3 years, right? I mean, if there's anyone that's more fresher and you think you're more successful, hey, hit me up.
Oh
right?
my
I'll bring
God.
you on.
We'll definitely win the youngest immigrant on this podcast.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Thank you so much. I'm honored.
That's so funny.
So,
I was actually thinking what would
I was
Cody
going to
say
say
now.
something different, but I'm very careful on...
I know. I actually want to know what you were going to say.
I was going to say...
That's hilarious.
I was gonna say the first brown people on Earth.
Yeah, I know.
I'm literally brown. He keeps forgetting.
She's not brown.
He
Look at her.
literally,
She's
we had a
not
conversation,
brown.
I swear to God, it was yesterday.
She's not brown.
Yesterday.
She's not brown.
No,
So,
I'm Syrian Iraqi.
So then,
Yeah, yesterday I was talking to him and he was like, yeah, we need like some more diversity in brown people. I'm like, I am a brown Arab woman. Like, what the hell?
you can't go more diverse than that, right?
And like my last name has like 10 letters, bro. What more would you want from a brown person? It doesn't even fit in the logo.
I'm gonna use that.
Exactly. Like I was like, my name doesn't fit in our logo, dude. Like what else do you want me to do? Most people mispronounce it. Like
Oh man,
I was so hurt.
I'm just very careful, man.
Like
If you're watching until this point, make sure you like and subscribe, and we have more episodes like this waiting for you, so stay tuned. And if you don't mind, give us a 5-star review so more people like yourself can enjoy episodes like this.